Hello and welcome back to SnowRunner, y'all. In this video, I'll be showing y'all how to unlock the new FEMM 37-AT. I know it's a hell of a truck name, but it's actually genuinely worth driving because not only is it really good to drive, but it's also one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, vanilla truck at the moment. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into the actual recovery process. Now, before y'all attempt this, I do want to make it entirely clear right off the bat that this is going to require a lot of power, and not only is it going to require a lot of power, but it's also going to require some extra fuel if you want to make things a lot easier for yourself on the way back. And the reason it's going to be so much easier for you on the way back is because if you bring some spare fuel with you, you'll already have it out there so you can throw it into the truck and get the truck started so that when you're pulling it, you can just fire up the engine and it will also power itself. Keep in mind, this truck does not have a blown engine. It doesn't have anything that you have to actually worry about in terms of it not running. The only thing you have to worry about is about the fuel. And in my opinion, if the only thing you have to worry about is low fuel in the truck, that's not actually the most terrible position to be in, considering what a lot of these tasks and challenges actually have you doing. Now, I know that there's going to be some people out there that are going to say that there's, something wrong with me doing this with a modded truck. And if you don't want to use mods in your playthrough, that's entirely up to you. I just recommend that if you're going to use a vanilla truck for this, please make sure you bring something with a lot of power. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a situation. And of course, also, you got to be prepared for the fact that it's just going to be a longer drive to get out there. So if you are taking a vanilla truck, you're also going to have to keep fuel consumption in mind. So not only are you going to be advised to bring spare fuel for the actual truck you're rescuing, but I would honestly also suggest that you bring some spare fuel for yourself as well, because there's a lot of areas along this route that go through some pretty desolate areas. And once you're out of the areas of the map that are almost what I would consider to be more built up, you're gonna find yourself at a loss for fuel and fuel stations quite quick. So again, just as we go through this this route and this overall challenge, I don't know why I keep calling it a challenge slash task slash job. It's a contract. It's one of the mainline contracts actually for this new region. Of course, I know that in my head when I'm talking about it, but I think at the same time when I'm talking about stuff just in this game in general, I don't know, my brain starts to like meld a bunch of things together. Now, getting to the first tunnel doesn't honestly take all that long, and once you're there, you can just hop right on over to the next map. The drive that you have to do after that, though, is that one's a little bit longer, and that one's honestly probably where you're going to spend the majority of your time. I honestly, when I was doing this, I spent more time on the way to the recovery than I did doing the actual recovery, because the recovery route is not exactly the same as the drive to get there. So you're going to be doing a lot less driving on the way back than you did on the way out, which is honestly kind of nice. Now, once you've made your way to reactive zone, you're going to take a quick look at the map in general. Now you can see where the final drop off is going to be, but you can also see that you have another tunnel to go through before you can actually get to your destination. However, there's a little bit of a hack for this, and it makes use of the train tracks. Now, you could stay on the main road. There's nothing stopping you from staying on the main road. However, it's a little bit more, it's a little bit more entertaining, in my opinion, if you give it a go on the train tracks themselves. And the other neat thing about the train tracks is that you can actually use them to avoid essentially a rock slide obstacle that is on that main road, which a scout truck would be able to get around just fine. However, some of the larger trucks honestly would probably have a pretty big issue with it. It's not the worst rock slide in the game by any stretch, but it's also not like a walk in the park obstacle either. And another cool thing about this task, or rather, there I am calling it a task again. It's a contract in the technical sense in terms of how it functions in the game. Again, I'm going to say that one more time because I'm sure that if I don't correct myself, someone in the comments will be very upset with me. But then again, there's always one or two people in the comments that are visibly upset with something I have done in the game. So honestly, I try not to worry about it all too much, because if you worry about it too much, then you're not going to have as much fun. Also, if this is your first time going through these maps, you can actually use this contract as a really good way to get these maps explored, at least explored a little bit, if you happen to have a portable radar unit or something else to sort of assist you in exploring these maps. Also, the routes that this challenge kind of takes you through is actually really good for opening up a lot of the main transport routes that these maps have to offer you. For example, this one that goes right past a train station, as well as a couple of others that will take you to the nuclear power plant out here on this map in particular. And then this is where things get a little bit, I wouldn't say quite unhinged, but I don't know, kind of bordering on the element of unhinged, because you can just absolutely let whatever truck you're driving just eat essentially down these train tracks, and it's not necessarily going to be a bad thing if you give it too much power, but you also have to pay attention to what you're doing, because if you give it too much, you can actually loop the truck on these train tracks, believe it or not. Or if you're in a vanilla truck, you can actually end up going a little too quickly, a little too fast, and have some of that odd ground contact damage, where essentially the game system, in kind of in sync with the vanilla trucks, will essentially see too high of a speed as automatic damage. Essentially, it's just player punishment. I call it player punishment because that's essentially all it is. It's the game punishing you for driving faster than it deems appropriate. It really does kind of come out to equal the SnowRunner equivalent of speeding tickets, because if you think about it, there's no other way that the game could necessarily punish the player for going faster than the game wants you to, aside from just making a damage penalty for it. And now that we've arrived on the third map, it's time to finally get this truck recovered. Now, well, I don't know about immediately get it recovered, but it's time to, at the very least, roll our truck and then restart it, because we were thankfully able to winch catch it, and then drive this thing around to the construction site where this truck was left, and then we'll be able to hook it up with a winch cable and just drag it out. And there's actually an even easier route to drag it out on than the route that we took to get in here in the first place. So do keep that in mind, because you don't have to exit this area the same exact way you entered. And seriously, I promise y'all, if you bring extra fuel to put in that truck before you actually try to head out with it, trust me, the extra fuel makes such a difference, because if you try to drag that out solely under your own truck's power, I mean, you could do it, but it's going to be an absolute nightmare. It's especially going to be an absolute nightmare in a lot of the areas where you're either going uphill, which thankfully a lot of this recovery route does not have, but it's going to hurt you in the uphill. It's going to hurt you whenever you have to go through / across water, and honestly, anywhere that you have to deal with going up against the elements. Not having fuel in that truck is going to make this harder for you. Also, this is what I meant when I said you didn't have to go out the same way you came in. You can just drag the truck up that hill that sits right to the side, and there's a little break in the guardrail so that you don't have to drive up and over it, which would honestly put this thing at a pretty high rollover risk. So putting this thing at a rollover risk is not what you want to be doing either, because that's like the one thing that the FEMM AT is genuinely bad for, is rolling on top of itself. And then once you've made your way across to the other side of the tunnel, then you're going to make a left, go back through the river, and don't turn right and go down the train tracks. I promise you, it's not a good idea to put your brain on autopilot and do that. Ask me how I know why that's a bad idea. And once you're across the train tracks, honestly, just stay to the left, stay on the main road, and follow that all the way down to the nuclear power plant where your drop-off point for this truck will be. And then once you've dropped it off, it's literally yours. It's like you can recover it back to the garage if you want to. You can just switch right on over to it and start using it for whatever. You could start driving it around right then and there. You could take on missions with it. You could take on whatever you wanted to do. But that is going to be your full walkthrough on how you can unlock this new truck. And if y'all are enjoying this latest season of SnowRunner DLC, share your thoughts and opinions on it with me in the comments down below. And if you're new around here and you would like to see more videos like this one, then consider hitting that subscribe button and turning those notifications on. But that's going to do it for this one, y'all, and I'll see y'all next time.